Y'all, so it is officially July and it is officially time for our July garden tour. I told y'all when I came back that it would not have all the pretty things growing in it more, and we are barely harvesting anything at this point because, as you can see, I decided that it was time to tear out the tomato plants. They're determinate varieties, so they pretty much had produced what they were going to produce. There were still a few small ones on there, of course, but they had pretty much produced what they were going to produce. It's July and it is so hot, and I knew they weren't going to produce very much of anything. So I went ahead and tore those out and decided to solarize it. That way I could kill some of the weeds that are left, and probably in about 2 weeks I'll come back and plant some green beans in that area before we come in and plant our cold weather crops, which would be broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, things like that. As you all know, July is a really hard time to garden in Florida, July and early August, because it is just so hot here. This is a lemon squash. It probably needs a little bit of water today, but like I said, y'all, it is still hanging in there and it still has a ton of fruit that it is producing. I absolutely love this variety. It gets wilty every day and then just comes right back and fills up with fruit. The zinnias in that need a lot of water. These are just my little pollinator beds, and a lot of it has died out. There was some calendula in this bed. Of course, when it gets hot, calendula says see you later. And then I have some mini zinnias. These are indeterminate tomatoes. I came yesterday and harvested. There were like 4 on this one, so it is now empty, but it has some nice little, if it's not too hot, blooms. So it should hopefully put on more fruit soon. That's the porterhouse. This is the bodacious, and it still has 1 left, and then it has some smaller ones all mixed in. I definitely think that these are a variety, both of these, that I will grow next year. That big old bed that had all of those chiffon squash in it, and the squash vine borers eventually got to them, and I decided it was just time to cut them all out. When the squash vine borers move in, I say see you later. It's not worth me fighting them. The marigolds, of course, will hang on until that first frost. There was some of the borage in here, and I just kind of pushed it over, and of course I came in and put the hay out of our hay barn down just to kind of retain moisture. The most important things, especially for raised beds, because they'll evaporate the moisture out of the beds really easily, is that you never want to leave your raised beds not covered. So you can either come in and replant this with something like a cover crop. You could come in and put a mulch down. There's all different kinds of mulch options. I've done living mulch, which does better in like the winter months, not necessarily the summer months, because you use things like alyssum, clover, etc. Or you could come in and actually tarp this, and it would like solarize it until you're ready to plant in it again. But you just never want to leave just the bare dirt open. Now on the back side of that same bed, I still have, it looks horrible. It looks absolutely horrible. And I think maybe the squash vine borers did start getting to it. You can see kind of right here this week. But earlier when I looked out here, it does still have some fruit that it's producing. So I left it in, even though it looks terrible. This is the back side of where the chiffon squash were. I have the 2 spaghetti squash. The vine looks like it's starting to die, but they are steadily turning yellow. So hopefully they'll still turn yellow and harden. I've already harvested a couple spaghetti squash off of that. Where I had the cucumbers and stuff planted on this trellis, I went in. Hoss in their seed of the month sent the red ripper peas, and so I decided I was going to wait, but I decided why leave this trellis blank, and I was going to put in the red ripper peas because I can get a harvest of those. I think it was 70 days, 60, 70 days. So I can get a harvest off of those before it's time to come in and plant my winter shelling pea varieties. This is all the sweet potatoes that I put in, and they're growing like crazy. I pulled the squash out of this end, so now the sweet potato vines are starting to come down. I can't wait to see how many sweet potatoes I get out of this 4x16 bed. This one keeps getting a little bit wilty, but it's just a smaller 2x4 bed. I just planted it because it was empty and I wanted to put something in it, and we'll test and see like how well the 2x4 bed does compared to the 4x16. Of course, I absolutely should have way more in this because it's a much larger bed with many more plants, but these have bigger leaves when they're not wilted. And so maybe it's supposed to rain this afternoon, so I really don't want to water and then the rainwater again. But these have much bigger leaves than these. So I'm wondering if these will have bigger sweet potatoes than these, or maybe it just has more nitrogen, so the green is bigger. Two options. Anyway, this is the Cocozelle squash, or Cocozelle zucchini. Zucchini or squash? Anyway, I think it's Cocozelle zucchini is what they call it. It still has a couple of fruits on it as well. Something started eating the leaves on it, and I have yet to find what bug is doing this. So anyway, but it's in the shade, and so it's actually hung on a lot longer than any of the others. However, this is the super long plant, and then like the fruit is way out here, and I've only harvested one Cocozelle plant. I give 3 years to prove themselves, and this is the 3rd year that I've tried Cocozelle, and it's just not for me. It just does not do well for me. Everybody loves it, but it just does not do well for me. So I'm giving up on the Cocozelle this year. You know. These are all of my birdhouse gourds. This has been the coolest thing. This is my first year with an arch trellis. So it's really cool to stand in here and to look back. But, you know, these will stay on here till they're nice and dry. The vines will get nice and dried out. And then these will get nice and brown and hard. And when you shake them, you should be able to hear like the seeds rattle in them. And that's how you know it's ready to harvest and ready for you to, or not ready to harvest, ready for you to pull off of the vine. And you can leave them somewhere to dry more if they turn brown and you need to harvest them before, like, so you can plant something else. Where am I going with this? Anyway, and then you can just leave them on a rack until you're ready to drill the holes in them. But these should start to die back soon because they've been growing for forever. On the other side of this trellis, I had some, I think they're lima beans. I can't remember what I decided to plant, but lima beans are butter beans. And I saw one the other day. Oh yeah. And so it's starting to form pods on it as well. So my daughter loves beans and lima beans. So we decided this year to add butter beans to our garden. And it was like a late crop that I could grow during the heat of the month, and it would still do really well. When I'm telling you, you need to plant eggplants, you need to plant eggplants. This is a crop that loves the summer heat, and it really doesn't start getting going good until you, like when my squash die off is always when the eggplants start producing insanely well, especially these black beauties. I love the long purple eggplants the best, but these black beauties produce a ton of eggplants. That one needs to be harvested because the thing's dull. This one too, I let it go too long, but it's huge. Like, I'm not sure if you can tell from there, but it's massive. I almost forgot to show y'all. Okay, so we had those artichokes. The plants are starting to die back. There are like some little ones sprouting though. And then right there, I've been told that these aren't exactly perennials in Florida, that they're more of an annual, but like then I have these little ones that are starting to form. So I don't know. Like I said, I've been trying this for 3 years and I was finally successful. I didn't get to harvest any because they were smaller than I was expecting, but I did get quite a few on here, and they bloomed, and the blooms are really pretty if you've never seen an artichoke bloom. But inside this head, they're not dried out yet, but inside this head will be tons of seeds, and the leaf-footed bugs love them. Like, I'm sure y'all can see them crawling up that. If you go on UF IFAS website, when I posted these in a Florida permaculture group, I think is what I did, or Florida food forest group on Facebook, and I was asking questions about like how big they get, because I really didn't know. Like, the ones in the grocery store are nice and big, but I knew I was growing them in Florida, which is supposed to be like next to impossible. And then I wasn't quite sure what variety they sell in the grocery store. They said it was impossible to grow artichokes, period, in Florida without adding some type of acid. The study was done down in Tampa, and of course, I'm North Florida, and I've tried this for 3 years and been very unsuccessful, but I like did it different ways. Like, I started the plants inside and tried to transplant them. These I just direct seeded into the garden, and they overwintered. And then I think what may have made them successful like this is we had that snow, so they had probably more chill hours than a normal Florida year. So we'll see next year. We'll see next year what happens. And then, like I said, there's those tiny plants. So if they're started now and they survive the summer and then the fall, they'll probably get more chill hours than those that I planted last year anyway, because I think last year I direct seeded those in like December or January. I'd have to look back at pictures. So maybe we'll be successful with artichokes again, and I'll know to harvest them next year when they're small. We're going to the in-ground garden now, and this is where like the most changes have taken place, and it's just because I removed all those tomatoes. So I harvested all of the melons. I decided to leave the fabric because it's still in good condition. Every year when I plant lettuce, it gets gritty and sandy, and so I think this year what I'm going to do is plant the lettuce in this weed barrier fabric and see if that helps, because no amount of washing has ever gotten the grit out of lettuce. I also grow very bitter lettuce, but I'm gonna keep trying because, you know, we eat a ton of salad around here. So I've already harvested the first flush of these blaze green beans, and they're starting to set the blooms for the second flush. Like you can see them there, and then I'm not sure if there's any like right at the surface anywhere else, but there's some right there. So in like 1 to 2 weeks, we should have a second flush of green beans. It won't ever be as big as the first flush. The big blue tarp is where I'm solarizing where all of the tomatoes were. Once that's done solarizing, there was some weeds in there. There wasn't a ton. I just didn't feel like rototilling all of that just to plant green beans. So I decided to solarize it, and then in 2 weeks, come in and plant the blaze bush beans there. These should be done with their second flush. I'll mow them down, because one of the most important things when you've planted green beans and you're doing it to like revitalize your soil is that you don't want to harvest the roots, because the roots break down and that's what gives the soil back some of its nitrogen. So I'll come through in 2 weeks. I will mow down the green beans with my mower, and then probably solarize this as well, and then that way it's ready for August, beginning to middle of August. I gotta decide when I'm gonna transplant out tomatoes. It'll be ready in August for those 4 rows of tomatoes that we have started on the back porch, and I'll have to go show y'all those. It's time actually for me to pot those as well. Peppers have really taken off since our last video. I'm harvesting so many peppers. These are the Sugar Rush Peach, and you'll see down here that some of them, I don't know if you can see the different color variation, but they're like this light yellow when they first start, and then they turn to this peachy color when they're ready for you to harvest. And they have been covered in peppers this year. And so we have a ton of peppers saved to make pepper jelly. And then right here are the pumpkin spice. They're just a little bit darker than the lemon spice that I have planted down here. And I wanted them to all turn yellow and orange because this is like not important at all because you can make pepper jelly with any color of peppers. But I wanted my pepper jelly to be pretty and be like a yellowy orange color. So I'm waiting until they all turn yellow and orange to harvest them so that I have a nice pretty yellow orangey pepper jelly. I have all of these, are they sweetie pies or sugar pies? Sugar pie, I think. Watermelons. I mean, sugar pie. Can you even see it? Sugar pie pumpkins. And these were the only ones that I thought were going to produce. And I've already harvested 2 of these. There's more over here. I've already harvested 2 of these, and I thought, there's another one right there. So they start out a green color, and then they eventually turn to a solid orange color. The whole thing will look like this, and that's how you know it's ready to harvest. But they'll go from like a solid green to this. I had planted Seminole pumpkins and the sugar pies, and like I knew I had a ton of vines, and I thought they were just the sugar pies because I didn't have any Seminole pumpkin fruit. Well, like 2 weeks ago, the Seminole pumpkins like went to vining everywhere, and you're fixing to see they're like all over the fence. They're into the horse pasture, And I only have one plant of each of these planted. And there are so many, I successfully grew Seminole pumpkins this year, as long as something doesn't come tear them down before they're ready to harvest. Because there's so many, really so many. Like this one's starting to turn the creamy, this one's starting to turn the, it'll be like I don't know, it's a weird orange. There's the second one right there too. And then there's some out in the pasture, of course. And then there's 3, 4, and then you'll see the one down here that's starting to turn already. I don't know if you can see that good. I'd have to go through the fence. Anyway, literally a ton of them. So something that I thought wasn't, I hate walking out here. I'm so scared there's snakes. Anyway, something that I thought wasn't going to produce is producing a lot. And those are a winter squash basically. So they'll be able to store in our pantry. And if they don't, this is a bit of a rebel canning move, but I cut it into chunks and I can it. And so it's about a cup once I can it in the quart jars. So it's perfect for making like pies, cupcakes, things like that. Okra section has also taken off this week, and I'm harvesting a lot more okra than I have in past years. So you'll just see like we're starting to get multiple heads of okra per each plant. So this has been a really good okra year. This is the tomatillos. I just let the leaf-footed bugs take it out because I'm using it as a trap crop now at this point. Definitely not going to get a harvest off of the tomatillos. They've just literally killed it. I can't decide if I should tear them out. I mean, all the tomatoes are gone for now, and they'll probably be dead by the time I put the August transplants in. But yeah, I've just left them for now. I'll probably come back and tear these out since I don't have any tomatoes. That's a very pretty gladiola. Any others over there?
No, just that.
No, just this one? Okay, you'll have to go put it in the vase in the house. And this is the cut flower garden. It looks very weedy right now. Anyway, we had all the zinnias, 2 patches, and then we had the snapdragon row, which I'm going to come and mow down. And then that's the bulb section back there, which was Lily's gladiolas. And I think the Lola that he just picked is the last one that I was waiting on to bloom before I mowed that over. I'd have to go out there and walk through and see. A couple weeks ago, maybe the last garden tour, I showed y'all that I was solarizing this area again. And so it's just going to be where I plant the sunflowers, and you can see the difference, like those are weeds, in the area where I solarized, and so there's no weeds or anything up under these tarps. So in August, I'm going to come through and till these up and plant a new batch of sunflowers. So basically there's not a whole lot producing right now in the garden, but it's okay because we're in the shift, because in August we're going to get to replant. This is our time to relax and rejuvenate from the rush of the summer garden. So it's nice to come out here in the mornings and just kind of walk through and it be nice and slow. So in a few weeks we'll get to be replanting for our fall garden. And the fall garden is my favorite, probably because you don't sweat as much. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed seeing what's not growing, what's growing, what's not growing. And let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see y'all later.